Testing. Check one. Hopefully that comes through all right. Let me find the correct chair height. Maybe I actually need to shuffle in a bit. Alright, welcome to episode something in the Decompression Chamber season 3. Next time I upload this, when I upload this one, I'll figure out which one we're at, so the next time I can put us back on track. Nevertheless, welcome to the Decompression Chamber. I'm your host, Mario. It's good to have you. And our opening quote is going to be from Franz Kafka, whom I love to quote despite never having read any of his work. Alright, so here's the quote. I write differently from what I speak. I speak differently from what I think differently from the way I ought to think, and so it all proceeds into deepest darkness. Oh, the intro.
Some little brother or margin hot stop and duck knock and rust stopping for cigarettes. In it's a smoke, out it says no. Cloud of the road that I play, so I know by their intimate business and building to settle the bitches at home want a toga, but I want a loan or a job or something to hold. It isn't the sheets that I folded this morning while sleep in the cold. I might turn up this girth, turn up my words, turn up in hustles as grumpy as birth. Billy the kid, I'm a cuss on the earth. I will be going.
Yeah, it's become a point of interest to me, I guess, because, just recently I went through a period of not feeling 100% too hot, and at the moment I'm feeling very good. I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling fresh, I'm feeling excited about the future, I'm feeling relieved, I'm feeling good, like just happy and jolly. Like I walked back home from uni just now and I just had a bit of a spring in my step. I had a little bit of glee in, I was going to look for a word that rhymes, but glee in my knee, anyway, somebody watching this will come up with something better than I could come up with. Anyway, yeah, I'm just feeling good, and it's not to say that I don't make videos when I'm not feeling good, but it's just, I think when negative kind of stuff is clouding my mind and stuff, I oftentimes feel reluctant to either record one, or when I do, I feel very reluctant to upload it, because, I do recognise I need to be wary of not editing my life in order to make it look like my life has only been positive experience, and positive emotion. But I don't know, I guess I feel weird about recording and posting a video when I'm feeling really down. Maybe that's a feeling of being insecure, not okay showing vulnerability in that sense, or yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just something about how I want to put myself forward through these videos. But it is part of my reality, it's part of my experience, and, the last, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months have constantly reminded me that the ups and downs of life are always that way. They're always going up and always going down. And yeah, I think it's one of those things that when you're down, you've got to, well, not you, I'm saying this reflexively. I've got to stay focused on what I can control and stay grateful, and be appreciative of my life and the people around me. Those are the big things for me. And when you're up, those things are still true, really. I've got to stay focused on what I can control. I've got to, focus on appreciating my life and those around me, and staying grateful. Like, those things don't change, but I guess my perspective changes, And I talked about the flowchart before, that, your perspective, I feel like my perspective determines my attitude towards life, and that attitude determines my experience. And so, in order to change the experience, you've got to reverse engineer the whole thing. Work all the way back to perspective. Work all the way back. And, sometimes having a different perspective isn't up to you. It's not like a conscious, well, I'm just going to change how I'm thinking. But sometimes it can be. And sometimes there are, I talked on a previous episode about the Boggle refresh, when you're playing the board game Boggle, and you shake up all the letters so that you get a whole new set of kind of things. Sometimes there are things that help you do that, For me, oftentimes exercise is one of them, because it kind of gives your body something to do and lets your mind be free and kind of work through things. And at the moment, my kind of drug of choice is basketball, which I've been really enjoying. Especially recently that my favorite player, Jimmy Butler, has been popping off in the playoffs for Miami Heat. And for those of you who don't know or don't care, I have a favorite basketball player because I actually got into basketball because my younger brother Diego, and we would play basketball sometimes in Spain on holiday. And just as a joke, I just made up a nickname, Jimmy Buckets, the man who couldn't miss. And the irony was that I would always miss because I was really bad. And lo and behold, there's a player who plays for the Miami Heat called Jimmy Butler, and his nickname is Jimmy Buckets. And so like I've just had like I play into it a little bit over the top, but I do really respect him, and I think he's a really fun player to watch, and he's really good. And so that's just kind of a fun happenstance thing that adds a little bit of color to my personal basketball experience. And so yeah, so I'll go at lunch almost religiously to play basketball. There's a really nice outdoor court at the park across from uni, and I just go there and shoot hoops. And sometimes my favorite people will join me, and sometimes I do it by myself, and sometimes if people that I don't really know come and play, and that's kind of a unique experience in of itself, you know. I played today with some fellow at the college. He just kind of like pulled up next to me, and we were just shooting hoops together, and I'm just learning about his life, um and we're just talking about stuff that we connect on, and that's just another fun thing. So that's one of the Boggle Refresh things. I went to speak to the student wellbeing advisor today. Previously I've spoken about speaking to a counsellor at uni, and this is a little bit different. The counsellor I spoke to because I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and like having anxiety in general, and they kind of helped me like work on some coping mechanisms, or some, just kind of like therapizing a little bit throughout what I was dealing with. Whereas this well-being advisor is a little bit more of like a kind of advisor, a coach, just kind of like I go to her and I just talk to her about my life for like an hour. I just kind of like spit stuff, and obviously normally it's stuff that's kind of causing me mental strain, or feels problematic in some way in my life. But yeah, so I spoke to her today, and to be honest, like because it's been such a good day, I was lucky enough to, it's just kind of like a chit chat. We were catching up because last time I spoke to her was before filming my grad project, Slapnuts, and yeah, so it was just catching up, her asking about my problems. I'm dealing with a lot of uncertainty about the future, and how to handle things that are going on now, and how to deal with my problems with self-esteem. Yeah, that's a whole kettle of fish. That's gonna take a while, but but that's all right. It's a long path, and yeah, so that speaking to her really helped me. I felt kind of, thing is, I didn't speak to her about anything that necessarily I wouldn't speak to with the people close to me, or even here. But I think having somebody in that kind of role, it provides a different outlook, and it provides a different perspective, because she only really knows about me through this. The only information is what I give her in this context, and so she kind of has a certain outlook, and helps kind of guide my thinking in a certain direction, and I think it's helpful because oftentimes she's pointed out things, patterns in my thinking, or perhaps things that I think about that maybe others don't, or things that I have going for me that I'm kind of overlooking or not being appreciative enough about. And again, it's just that whole thing of changing your perspective. So yeah, I mean, hell, if you're somebody that's going through anything difficult, and you have something available, something accessible, particularly if you're like me, if you're a student, please check up on your like university well-being. Obviously with there's more mental health awareness for young people and for people in general, and I think that it's a travesty, the lack of mental health help that there is for all peoples. But I think, for students particularly, just from my personal experience, I've seen how many people need help that aren't getting it in some way or another, and I hope in a certain sense that, in a small tiny way, that me speaking about my issues here can help kind of like break that mold a little bit of people not speaking about this stuff, and not addressing the reality that almost everybody that I know at my age deals with something, even if it's not like crippling, or it's not chronic, or it's not huge stuff. Everybody deals with something. Everybody's got some difficulty caused by the complexity and difficulty of life. And for me, I've found that speaking to somebody about it helps. Somebody who's specifically geared and in a position to address your well-being, and help you put focus on improving that mental well-being in some way or another. And I recognize that access is not as good as it can be, and one of the most important and difficult barriers to break is that difficulty of opening up about it, and the extreme kind of difficulty of just, going through the effort and going through the mental strain of organizing, going and actually doing it. I remember the irony of going through a period of extremely difficult anxiety, um, and feeling very anxious and almost not going to the meeting with the counselor because I was feeling anxious about it. And it's like, well, this has just caught me in a loop now. And luckily I was able to get out of that loop. But there are some people, for whatever circumstance or whatever reason, they're stuck in a loop, or they're stuck in a very difficult position. And, when I've been stuck in difficult positions, oftentimes the thing that's most helped me is somebody's outstretched hand, you know? So, yeah, again, that's just another reason to check on people in your life, and yeah, just make sure that people are taking care of themselves, or at least trying. Yeah, so that's another Boggle refresh for me. Practicing guitar here is nice because it kind of just allows me to focus on that. Going to dance class, that's cool. Very similar effect. Watching a film sometimes will do it for me. There's all sorts of things. Sometimes I'll go on a walk and listen to music. I'm not saying this like you must follow what I do, but what I'm saying is that having these things implemented in my life has helped me oftentimes break the kind of rut that I can get stuck into. And oftentimes when I am feeling in a depressed state or being low, staying kind of focused on my habits and kind of keeping things somewhat organized in my life helps me get back on track. Because oftentimes I find that when my like mental health takes a dip, all of like the kind of good habits that I have just slide right off. I don't do my washing up regularly. I don't tidy my room. I don't exercise as much. I eat worse food, and it just kind of that exacerbates things, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I think that's one of the things that's been one of the most difficult journeys on this kind of course, this course of life, really. But like just something I've become more aware of naturally since not living at home is the difficulty of just taking care of yourself. Not just taking care of yourself in terms of like making sure that you have a place to sleep and have food to eat and stuff, because some of that is provided for me through student finance and that. But just the thing of being caring to yourself and seeing yourself as someone that's valuable and worthy of care and all of this kind of stuff. And I recognize in myself that I speak unkindly about myself at times to myself. My internal monologue is not kind to me, and I think it's one of these things where it's more subconscious than it is conscious. I don't know whether you guys will relate to this, but sometimes I'll drop something or I'll bump into something, or that kind of small minor thing, and I'll so quickly it escapes me. It's not even a conscious thought. I'll think, oh, you're an idiot, Marriott, or you fucking idiot, or like just one of these comments, one of these thoughts, and it's like, oh, I already believe that about myself. This just became a moment for the thought to present itself. So I think that's something I need to work on, how I speak to myself, how I address myself. Sometimes I wake up and I look in the mirror and I think, hell yeah, I'm feeling good. The guy I'm looking at is looking back at me. He likes what he sees, and not just on a surface level, but like to the depths of who I am. Like, like I'm glad to be me. It's cool. This guy gets it. Whereas like sometimes, more often than I'd like it to be, I wake up and I look at myself and I don't like what I see. I don't like who I am. I feel distasteful and I wouldn't say apathetic, but I'd definitely say pathetic. Like sometimes I just look at myself. I'm just like, you piece of shit. And it's like I don't mean it, but I mean it. Like I know it's wrong, but it doesn't feel like I'm telling it to myself. It feels like myself is telling it to me. And that might not make sense, but yeah, there's this just weird duality of it. And sometimes I recognize that sometimes you just have a bad day. Sometimes you just have an off day, and you just have to get through it the best you can and wait on the good times. And sometimes it is just me being mean to myself, like me being unkind, me being essentially rude. It's like if I spoke to other people how I spoke to myself in my head, people wouldn't hang around with me, and And so I guess it's trying to find the right way, trying to find a habit of returning that kindness that I'd like to give out to others to myself, you know? And exactly how that plays out is difficult. As I said before, a lot of this kind of ongoing negative internal monologue is actually quite subconscious. It's deep rooted. I have this kind of like baseline feeling of worthlessness that kind of supersedes my conscious state. And so how do I crack into that subconscious? How do I work all the way down to those levels and work on that kind of very, very core basic self concept? I wish I had a good answer, but I'm working on it. I feel like over the course of the last few years, some of it's been documented through this series. I feel like I have been getting better. I'm not all the way there, but I have been getting better at taking care of myself and treating myself as a functional adult, even though I feel dysfunctional a lot of the time. I'm getting better, and I think one of the big parts is that I actively seek self-improvement. I actively seek to make myself better. I actively seek to make my life better and provide, joy and happiness to those around me. I think that's part of it. I think it's a Socrates quote, or it's a Greek philosopher. Don't murder me, Ped. But they said something like, "Be as you wish to seem." Be as you wish to seem, which is like, you kind of have to work your way through that quote. There's a little bit of room for interpretation there, but I think for me, the way I interpret that is like, there are some things that I kind of know I want to be, or I would like to kind of qualities that I'd like to have, or kind of attitudes that I like to reflect, that I kind of don't, like I know I want to feel good about myself, and yet sometimes I kind of wallow too much in my own self-pity, or, maybe there's an opportunity that I see that somebody does something good for someone. I'm like, well, I need to do more things like that, and maybe the next time I see that opportunity, I don't capitalize, I don't make the most of it, I don't, do the thing that I wish I'd done, and I don't think it's worth like torturing myself over that about myself. I think it's just one of these things where I think part of that self-doubt, part of that kind of like feeling down about yourself, allows you to focus on what you can improve as a person. I think if you don't have any of that inner critic, if you don't have any of that voice inside that kind of calls into question who you are and what you do, then you wouldn't improve as a person. You wouldn't be considerate of those around you. You wouldn't be, learn from your experiences, and you wouldn't, build from your failures. I remember ages ago in season 2, I did an episode about forgiveness, and how, for me, a big part of forgiveness is, it has to come from, or it can, in my eyes, in my own personal life and experiences, it can only be possible when you know that somebody will learn from their experience and somebody will change what they've done. I mean, that sounds basic, but like, I think it's just a big part of life, isn't it? Is that you notice what you've done wrong and you seek out improvement. Yeah, and that's just kind of been some of the stuff that we've been going through. I'm working on post-production for Slapnuts, and that's going really well. I'm feeling more and more confident and emboldened by that. And yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where like, my dad, sometimes he'll talk about harmony and disharmony. Rather than good and evil or order and chaos, he'll talk about harmony and disharmony. And today just feels like a harmonious day, I think that might be the title, a harmonious day. Sometimes it's all disharmony. Sometimes it's all harmony. And sometimes there's a weird blend where, like, yesterday, for example, I had a pretty good day and then took a downslide and then took an upslide, And you just have to ride it out a little bit sometimes. Sometimes you just, like, maybe in my own head, I want more control over those kind of parts of my life than maybe I necessarily have. And maybe I don't take control as much as I ought to. And knowing exactly where that comes into play is difficult. And sometimes you only understand it with hindsight, Or like, again, one of my favorite quotes of all time. It might be my favorite. It might be, but there's too many to count. But one of my favorites is from Soren Kierkegaard, who said, "Life can only be lived forward, but understood backward." And I think I wonder, in a certain extent, whether I'll feel that way watching back these videos when I'm older. Maybe these things that I'm pointing to with confusion, maybe they'll make more sense. Maybe they won't. Maybe I get to an older state and I'm just like, yeah, we're still figuring this shit out. and it's likely a lot of these big questions don't have as clear and concise answers as I might want. But at least I'm asking them. At least I'm asking them. I'm searching for some sort of purpose. I'm searching for some sort of clarity. I'm moving towards the goal of self-actualization and self-care. You know, I think it's just one of these things. But yeah, I feel like there's some sort of sentiment I ought to kind of like build on, or some sort of thing that I should leave on. But I think if anything, much like I said with the gratitude stuff, when I'm down and there are people in my life that help me out and, show me love and care for me, that makes me want to show appreciation and return that love in some kind of way. But it's just as true when I'm happy. Sometimes it's even more true because I'm more lifted it within myself. But like whenever I'm in this kind of state, I want to let people know how much I love them, because, I just think it's the most powerful thing in the world. Like there's nothing more powerful. Like, all right, there's a lot of things that are competing, and it's like not quantifiable or measurable, but at least I know that love is a powerful thing in my life. Maybe not, I can't make sweeping generalizations about the whole world and all of human experience, but for me, in my life today, right now, I feel a lot of love, and you know what? Today I feel like I've been loving to myself. I feel like I have been just grateful for my life and grateful for the journey that I've been on and the way that I have traversed this journey. There've been a lot of good companions on this journey, but the journey's been me. I've been me throughout the journey, and I've been willing to accept the changes that life brings, but also try and remain true to the things that I know are true for me. How I think people deserve to be treated, the things that I value and hold importance to, and the things that I give priority to in life. And I hope you know that just by watching this video, just by seeking a little bit of understanding in me, and maybe seeking a little bit of understanding in yourself, you've given me a little bit of extra sense of fulfillment. Even though these videos don't get many views, I don't really care about that. I just care about getting this shit off my chest, leaving some sort of mark in the sand that I was here, and speaking to myself, I guess. Just being alone in my room and airing out some of my thoughts, because they're here all the time. But yeah, just know that I appreciate you very much. If you like the content, share it, tell somebody you know, spread it around, because hey, if this is at all helpful or beneficial to you, I know it's beneficial for me, so you never know, might help someone out, or might just, give them something to chew on while they're cooking, or something to listen to while they're doing their laundry or whatever. But that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make your day better. I'm here to make my life better. So yeah, onwards and upwards. Lots of love.
The meat in my steamers, bro. For the oblique turn peak of the soul. Peace never know what's about to occur, but my zen getting rolled at a turn of your words. Run of the meat in my steamers, bro. For the oblique turn peak of the soul. Peace never know what's about to occur, but my zen getting rolled at a turn of your words.
What is in my head? What's your that? What can waste? What whisk up the eggplant?